When fear makes you small. You know, often the reason we don't serve God, we don't try to serve God, or we fail to serve God perhaps, is because we are fearful. And that is the most repeated command in the Bible, isn't it? That when an angel or the Lord himself spoke to someone, he said, do not fear. Yet we fear. And I think everyone from the Apostle Peter to the greatest missionaries to the local church guy who's been at that church for 70 years, we all fear something. We all fear at times. And so this morning, as we continue our verse-by-verse study of Galatians, we're in Galatians 2:12. Hi, my name is Darren, by the way. This is Line by Line Bible, where you can learn the Bible with clarity, confidence, and courage to God's glory. And so the verse today is from Galatians 2:12, which reads, "For before certain men came from James, he was eating with the Gentiles." This is referring to Peter. "But when they came, Peter drew back and separated himself, fearing the circumcision party." The big idea today is simply that fear can make us walk away from people God calls us to love. Fear can make us walk away from people that God calls us to love. 3 short points this morning I think are worth noting as we go through this. First off is that fear makes conviction tremble. Fear makes conviction tremble. When we fear the people that we are serving or sharing the gospel with, or just really going to spend time with, we are going to lose our convictions. This is the classic peer pressure thing that it is. I grew up in the 80s and 90s in America, and there was drug awareness, resistance education, the DARE program, which was to keep kids off drugs, a great idea. But often what they talked about was that peer pressure would allow people to not do what they knew to do, which was to say no to drugs. And so, friends, when it comes to spiritual convictions, it could be in a break room, it could be at a holiday party, it could be with a family member or a spouse. We don't want to upset them, we don't want to offend them, we don't want to whatever. And so fear will often take over and our convictions will go out the door. Peter's courage shrank in front of influence of James and the Jews. Remember, he's been playing both sides of the aisle here. He's been chummy with the Gentiles and they're there, and he hated the Gentiles and the Jews were there, and vice versa. He was trying to please people. And Galatians 1:10, Paul has reminded us many times in this study that if I'm still a servant of men, I cannot be a servant of Christ. And so what you need to remember is that in John 12:43, basically what we see is that glory from men is less than glory from God. That to get the approval of men is to lose the effectiveness of the working of God. So what are you struggling with fear today? Is it a person? Is it a system? Is it a doctrine? Is it a situation? May God give you fear that makes may God give you convictions, rather, that makes fear tremble. Second thing I want you to see is that when fear comes, it makes us small, is that compromise begins at the table. Notice that he says here that he was eating with the Gentiles. So Peter's fear from serving God and making the gospel to all people, as he found in Acts 10 when Cornelius came to visit him, what he's saying is that compromise begins at the table. When you see other people coming or going and not doing what you expect them to do, or their mere presence gives pressure to you, we have to remember it's not always doctrine that goes first, it's distance. And this is exactly what Saul had happened to him when he was supposed to wait on the prophet Samuel. Is that he went ahead and sacrificed when Samuel told him not to, and at least he was honest about it. He said, I feared the people. He told Samuel, the reason I did this is because I feared the people. I feared that if I did not do the sacrifice to get us in the game and get us moving with the Amalekites, then I would lose the people, and the people would do something to me. And so, friends, I think it's just a good lesson for us in that we need to remember not doctrine first, but distance first. Sometimes we need to take a step back from the influence of other people to really realize that we are getting ready to compromise the very things we say we believe. We need to take a time out, go to the bathroom. We don't watch these shows, but something came up on our social media feed the other week where it was a dating show, and it was a court case, and the lady was the man was suing the lady for a date that went bad. She ordered like $200 worth of food, and he basically said he was going to the bathroom, and he left the restaurant because he didn't want to. He was compromising everything he knew for the sake of this lady, and it was a whole court case. I don't even know how it ended up, but the point of it is, sometimes you need to just step away from the situation, and Peter needed to do that to remind himself of the gospel being true for all. Last thing is this: when fear makes you small, and fear makes conviction tremble. Compromise often begins at the table. And finally, here, number 3 is your example shapes others. Your example shapes others. Barnabas would fall away in the next verse. Others followed Peter's leadership because Peter was an apostle, and basically, if you compromise, others will too. Friend, this has happened so many times over the years. I've seen people who know better doctrinally about their beliefs, who know better with their behavior, because they've been influenced by a person or a group of people. They are willing to let their example go out for sake of that relationship, even though that relationship is exactly what 1 Corinthians 15:33 warns about, is that bad company corrupts good character, good morals. And of course, in that chapter in 1 Corinthians 15, Paul is referring to the resurrection, and that those who say there's no resurrection will directly influence those who do believe that Jesus actually bodily, literally, physically rose from the dead. But the general principle is the same. Your example shapes others, and that's very key. Are you pointing people to Christ, or are you pointing people to a person or a system or a loyalty? Look, there's nothing wrong with being loyal. There's nothing wrong with supporting people. There's nothing wrong with those things inherently. It always comes back to, are those things and those peoples and those loyalties keeping you from honoring Christ first? And if they are, you need to let them go. So that's what you need to know, is that you preach with your presence before you preach with your words. And Peter failed that test. His fear caused others to stumble. What is it that you're fearing today? Friends, that's all I have today. I pray that you really look at this verse, Galatians 2:12, and see what it is. Hey, and if you're new to us, feel free to subscribe or drop tips, TIPS, into the link below. Be happy to share with you some Bible study tips that I've used over the years. But until next time, I want you to know that Jesus loves you.